In the sprawling, sun-baked city of Timbuktu, Mali, lived a young woman whose spirit was as vibrant as the market silks, yet whose life was stitched with threadbare misfortune, Nafisa. She belonged to an ancient line of custodians, sworn to protect and safeguard a mystical, intricately woven Kele Basket. For countless years, this sacred duty had flowed from parent to firstborn, each successor inheriting not just the obligation, but an inexplicable, spiritual resonance with the woven relic. Unbeknownst to Nafisa, her lineage was ensnared in a devastating curse, unleashed the very moment the magical basket vanished, sentencing her descendants to generations of unimaginable suffering. Nafisa's days were a grueling, repetitive loop of inexplicable hardship and strange events. There were times when a crushing, black despair would descend so heavily that she would lose all sense of herself, finding herself wandering familiar souks, suddenly unable to recall the path back to her own humble compound. The millet and sorghum she planted always shriveled to dust, no matter the tenderness of her care. This forced her away from the joy of the earth, compelling her to take on punishing, low-paying labor just to put meager food on their mat. Nafisa was a maiden of innate kindness and a deep, intuitive bond with the natural rhythms of the world. Her mother had passed away bringing Nafisa into the world, and her beloved Baba was crippled by a mysterious, debilitating sickness that left him agonizingly frail. Nafisa had taken on the mantle of his caretaker, working every waking hour, cleaning, cooking, and nursing, but her tireless devotion seemed only to watch his health steadily ebb away. The village herbalists, confounded by her father's condition, offered what meager remedies they could, but their rare, potent desert herbs were priced far beyond her reach. The other residents of Timbuktu often huddled together, their voices dropping into sharp, hurtful whispers whenever Nafisa passed. Though she tried to let their words blow past her like dry desert wind, the venomous rumors still managed to pierce. They spoke of a curse that had fastened itself onto her family for decades, but Nafisa knew nothing of her ancestors' past or the magical basket they obsessed over. To her, it was all just ignorant chatter and an easy excuse for the grinding poverty they all endured. The entire community was struggling. Their crops failed year after year, their essential livestock succumbed to unseen illnesses. It felt as if the very soil of Mali was under a dark enchantment. Nafisa often pondered if the cruel whispers held a fragment of truth, but whenever that crushing thought took hold, she fiercely shoved it away, focusing only on the immediate need to survive and care for her father. The gossip was a constant, sharp reminder that her family was set apart, and she had no idea why. Meanwhile, Mansa Musa II, the revered chief of Timbuktu, was a righteous leader who held the welfare of his people above all else. He issued a powerful, desperate proclamation. Whoever could locate the sacred Kele Basket and return it to the royal compound would be granted one absolute wish. His wife, the Queen Aisha, was furious upon hearing this decree and immediately confronted him. "How could you make such a reckless promise?" she demanded, her beautiful face contorted with anger and profound dismay. Mansa Musa II, seated regally upon his simple throne, regarded her with unnerving tranquility. "What are you speaking of, my queen?" he asked. "Your Majesty, the edict you spoke so carelessly this morning still rings in my ears." Queen Aisha trembled with emotion. "You declared you would bestow any wish upon the finder of the basket. Did you pause for even a breath to consider the catastrophic ambition this could unleash? Your words were born of haste and zero foresight, and now I fear we are all doomed to face the terrible consequences of your impulsive decision." The king was not swayed. His shoulders rose and fell in a gesture of profound weariness. "I sought only to light a fire under our people, Aisha, to breathe the smallest flicker of hope back into their hearts. What possible harm can come of that?" he asked, his voice edged with defensiveness. Hearing this, the queen's eyes narrowed, her face a mask of escalating dread and skepticism. "Mansa, you are offering our crown itself as a prize. What if a purely selfish, power-hungry individual claims the basket and demands to seize your throne? What then? Will you simply give up your kingship, abandoning your sacred duties and your entire suffering people?" Queen Aisha challenged. But Mansa Musa's spirit remained unyielding, his gaze resolute as he declared, "I am indifferent to the identity of the finder, Aisha, and I care nothing for the nature of their ambition." My sole purpose is the liberation of this city from this unending curse. We are on the precipice of collapse. Our people are starving, our essential lands are sterile and useless. I will sacrifice anything, even my own throne, if it guarantees the salvation of Timbuktu. I will not stand by and witness the total extinction of our culture. You speak of duties, my queen, but to whom will I perform them if our entire population perishes? What good are duties without a people left to serve? The queen's tense posture softened, her anger melting away beneath the sincerity of his devotion. My king, my fear for our future remains palpable, yet as always, I will stand steadfastly by your side. Our son, our capable and brilliant prince, shall join the quest for the Kele Basket. May the land itself smile upon his efforts and guide his every step. She offered a frail smile when the king nodded in solemn acknowledgement. The instant the decree was announced, the entire community plunged into the search. Hunters tracked through the vast Sahelian scrubland, farmers dug through their arid fields. Some villagers searched in organized groups, others alone, and many families scoured the area together. As they combed the earth, their minds spun with intoxicating visions of the lives they could lead if their deepest desires were granted. Some imagined themselves wielding devastating magical powers, while farmers envisioned fields overflowing with impossible, bountiful harvests. The possibilities felt limitless, and the collective excitement soared. However, beneath the shared hope, a dangerous sense of competition began to slither in, as each person secretly plotted to be the one to find the magical basket and claim their ultimate wish. None of the villagers had any clue what the Kele Basket actually looked like, yet they all held the blind belief that they would instantly recognize it. Only Nafisa seemed to have any insight. The king's decree made her question if her persistent dreams were more than coincidence. You see, since she turned 17, Nafisa had begun to hear subtle whispers. The basket could sense her purity of heart and her inherited connection to the ancient land. Come to me. I have been waiting for too long, the basket would faintly call. But Nafisa didn't recognize the source, so she consistently dismissed the whispers as figments of an overworked mind. Nafisa shook her head, unable to say where she would even begin. The elder woman gave Nafisa a single instruction: journey to the Jinn's Canyon. Seek out the oldest baobab trees, and listen to their silence. They will show you the path. After the old woman finished speaking, the dream instantly dissolved. Nafisa awoke with a surge of determination, her heart hammering with a mix of excitement and profound fear. She remembered she would begin her quest that very morning. The Jinn's Canyon was said to border the far edge of Timbuktu and was notorious for being treacherously confusing. Rumors claimed the canyon could rearrange its own hidden paths, making it impossible for even the most expert trackers to navigate. It was also said to be the domain of ferocious beasts that even the bravest hunters avoided. But the elder woman's words echoed in Nafisa's mind, urging her to push onward. That morning, after carefully setting her house in order, she shouldered the simple cloth bag she had packed the previous day. Before setting out, she went into her father's room. She saw that he was peacefully asleep. Her heart swelled with love and renewed resolve as she watched him. She gently took his hand in hers. "Goodbye, Baba," Nafisa whispered. "I will be back soon, with the magic basket." She held his hand for a moment longer before quietly leaving the room. As Nafisa made her way through the waking city, she prayed inwardly that Mama Kumba would honor her promise. She prayed for success in her journey, and that she would return with the basket to save her father. When Nafisa reached the edge of the canyon, she paused, surveying the entrance. The reality was worse than the rumors had claimed. The immense baobab trees formed a dense, impossible-looking canopy, their thick branches woven into an intricate, tangled web. Nafisa felt a wave of terror and momentarily contemplated turning back. But she ruthlessly suppressed the thought. Taking a deep, fortifying breath, she stepped into the shadow of the canyon. The towering trees seemed to instantly close in around her, but she stood her ground, refusing to be defeated by the forest's oppressive presence. Her senses were razor-sharp, taking in every sight and sound as she began her purposeful march in search of the basket. For 3 exhausting days, Nafisa wandered the canyon, searching aimlessly for the basket, all to no avail. She used her knife to hack a path through dense scrub and even killed a deadly horned viper with it. The talisman of dreams became her only source of psychological strength. When hunger gnawed, she ate the stored food. When thirst overcame her, she drank the water. She used the charcoal stick to make small, coated marks on the scattered rocks to track her path, and she rubbed the potent herbs and garlic on her skin, hoping to repel unseen animals. On the fourth day of her desperate search, Nafisa collapsed onto a jagged rock. She was utterly exhausted and deeply frustrated. She was making zero progress and had no idea what dangerous creatures lurked in the deeper, darker sections of the canyon. She didn't even know if the garlic or the other herbs could truly keep them away. "I cannot do this anymore," Nafisa mumbled, gazing at the dense, unyielding thicket. "I will never find that basket," she concluded, her voice thick with despair. As Nafisa sat there, her mind drifted, and then, suddenly, she recalled the elder woman's instruction. "Seek out the oldest baobab trees, and listen to their silence. They will show you the path." Hope instantly surged through her, and she felt a powerful return of strength. She stood up from the rock and began to carefully survey her surroundings once more. She noticed that some of the massive trees looked far older and more weathered than others, their trunks scarred by ages. She began to follow them, a faint smile returning to her lips. Nafisa knew she was finally on the correct path, and the sheer joy of that knowledge was her new companion as she moved through the canyon. Nafisa walked until she came upon a truly colossal baobab. It was exponentially larger than all the rest she had seen, a giant with a terrifyingly twisted trunk. Nafisa was powerfully drawn to it. As she drew nearer, she heard a faint, sibilant sound. "Follow the dry riverbed," the voice whispered. Nafisa spun around, searching for the speaker, but found no one. Then she realized, the tree itself was speaking to her. Fear pricked her, and she wanted to flee, but she stood her ground, watching the tree. She then bowed her head deeply, a gesture of profound respect. The tree spoke again, and this time, Nafisa heard it clearly. "Follow the dry riverbed. It is the safest path." Nafisa smiled at these words. They were the absolute confirmation that she was on the right track. She located the ancient, cracked riverbed and began to walk along its course. The dry riverbed's winding, serpentine path became her new guide. The sweet, heavy scent of unseen desert flowers filled her lungs, imbuing her with a deep sense of peace. Nafisa walked until she began to hear the unmistakable sound of water trickling down rock. The sound grew louder as she followed the riverbed, until she found its source, a small, hidden waterfall. As Nafisa stood before the falling water, her heart beat with nervousness. She took a deep breath and stepped into the cool, refreshing stream. But the pleasant sensation was quickly replaced by a sense of urgency, for instead of emerging on the other side of the waterfall to continue the riverbed path, Nafisa found herself in a mysterious, subterranean cavern. The roar of the waterfall was now a muffled echo, and she was in an entirely new world. She had become comfortable with the ways of the desert canyon, able to identify edible plants and avoid dangerous ones, but she was completely unprepared for a cave. She lit her oil lamp and hurried forward, desperate to escape the cavern's oppressive darkness and avoid becoming prey to any creature that might lurk within. Her lamp cast erratic, flickering shadows on the stone walls, and as she hurried, her gaze began to settle on the intricate ancient carvings adorning the cave. There were complex symbols and vivid, painted images. As the light danced across them, Nafisa's curiosity finally overcame her fear. She slowed her pace and began to trace the carvings with her eyes. The carvings narrated a story, the genesis of Timbuktu and the tragic loss of the Kele Basket. Centuries ago, a wise and powerful sorceress named Daira had established Timbuktu, choosing the location for its deep, sacred energy. Daira created the magic multiplying basket to ensure the community's abundance and everlasting prosperity, weaving the basket with materials harvested from the deepest parts of the canyon. Her descendants became the guardians and conduits of the basket's magic. For generations, the basket was passed down to the city's chiefs, each one drawing upon its power to maintain communal harmony and bring wealth. When the leaders used the basket selflessly, the guardians linked to the artifact amplified the good intention, allowing the magic to flow freely. But if the basket was ever used for personal gain or selfish purposes, the guardian's connection was weakened, causing the magic to dim. One chief began using the basket for his own profit, multiplying goods for a heavy fee, thereby polluting the artifact's sacred power. Gradually, the basket's magic began to fade. The guardian of that era warned the chief of the impending doom, but her words were dismissed as irritating noise. The chief, enraged that his authority was questioned, ordered her immediate execution and the imprisonment of her family. On the day of the execution, the people of Timbuktu watched silently, doing nothing. Some of the villagers were already queuing up with items they wanted multiplied after the execution, eager for it to be over quickly. Then, a great, unnatural storm erupted. The land itself was angry, sending a fierce tempest that swept through the city, ending the lives of almost the entire royal family. Only one man was spared. Property was lost, and countless other lives were extinguished. The Kele Basket vanished completely in the chaos, unleashing a terrible curse upon the city and the guardian's remaining descendants. The villagers, suddenly realizing their profound mistake, searched everywhere for the basket, but it was nowhere to be found. The Jinn's Canyon was thoroughly scoured, but the terrain itself seemed to mess with the minds of the searchers, constantly shifting its paths to prevent them from finding the relic. The people mourned their dead and rebuilt Timbuktu, but it was never the same. The once flourishing city stopped thriving and began its slow, painful decline. Stories of the Kele Basket were now only cautionary tales told to children around evening fires. As Nafisa gazed upon the carvings, a whirlwind of questions tore through her mind. What is the specific curse? Why is the canyon guiding me on this impossible journey? What is the meaning of my dreams and visions? The carvings offered no answers, only driving her deeper into the desperate need to uncover the full truth. She continued her journey through the cave. The silence was heavy and terrifying, but Nafisa pressed on until she finally emerged from the mouth of the cavern. She blinked hard as the sun's rays hit her eyes. A warm breeze filled her lungs, and she saw the canyon stretching out endlessly in every direction. The stream continued its path, so Nafisa extinguished her lamp, stepped forward, and resumed her journey along its banks. Nafisa knew her quest was far from over and that the canyon had only just begun to unveil its secrets. She walked until she reached yet another colossal baobab, this one standing right on the stream's edge. At its base, nestled among the massive roots, was a small, tranquil pool of water. The pool was surrounded by a ring of soft moss and fragrant wildflowers, and it emanated a gentle melodic hum that drew Nafisa in. As Nafisa gently touched the water, its tranquility instantly shattered, and a terrifying vision descended upon her. In the vision, Nafisa heard a chilling voice. "This is the curse. Timbuktu shall no longer prosper. The land that once gave forth abundance shall wither and decay. The soil shall forget its fertility, and the plants their life force. The curse of lost harvests shall forever haunt the land. And to the guardians, you shall suffer. Your crops shall shrink and perish. Your seeds that once sprouted with hope shall rot in the ground. Your lineage shall suffer the unbearable weight of your failure, and in your suffering, your memory of the basket's secret will fade, and your connection will dwindle. You will wander the earth, but your true identity and purpose will be hidden in darkness. In your prime, debilitating illness shall torment you until you die. This curse shall stretch through generations until the Kele Basket is restored, and the heart of the city is renewed." As the voice spoke, Nafisa saw a procession of faces, each one dissolving into the next, and each pair of eyes staring directly into hers. The faces grew increasingly familiar until she saw her own father's face, and then, her own face staring back at her. She gasped, shocked by the intensity of her own gaze, and the vision instantly dissolved, leaving her breathless and deeply bewildered. Nafisa staggered backward as the crushing realization dawned on her. "I am a guardian," she screamed. "It all makes sense now. The city, the curse, the dreams, the visions, everything. This is why my seeds fail. This is why my father's condition defies the healers. I finally understand his last words now. Find the basket, it is our only hope. But he never told me why." Nafisa's eyes widened, comprehending the horrifying weight of the curse and the terrible responsibility suddenly resting on her young shoulders. "I will end this curse," she vowed. Nafisa dusted off her clothes and moved to continue her journey. Suddenly, a faint, pure light appeared, illuminating a narrow, overgrown path hidden by dense scrub. Nafisa was certain the basket itself wanted her to find it. Without a moment's hesitation, Nafisa set off down the new path. It led her through a tight thicket of spiky thorn bushes, and she carefully used her knife to trim them back. She followed the path until she reached a small, cleared area surrounded by massive, ancient, standing stones and trees unlike any she had seen before. In the center of the clearing was a single huge flat stone, and resting upon it was the basket. Nafisa smiled a wide, triumphant smile as she saw the Kele basket. But as she stepped into the clearing, the surrounding landscape grew treacherous. The trees began to twist and contort their branches until they completely encircled the basket, blocking it from view. Nafisa tried to cut through the woody barrier, but the trees only twisted more violently. She tried to climb the trunks, but they immediately sprouted sharp thorns. Nafisa instantly knew they were the protectors of the artifact, guarding the basket from the hands of selfish and undeserving men. She knelt down and offered a heartfelt, penitent prayer. "Ancient ones, I, Nafisa, guardian of the Kele basket, bend my heart and spirit to your ancient power, seeking forgiveness for the wrongs of my city. We strayed from the path of balance. We neglected the basket's sacred grace, and we have suffered immensely for that terrible error. Please accept my deepest apology for the harm we have caused. My heart is pure, and my intentions are true. The curse that binds us, I seek to undo. Grant me passage that I may finally fulfill what my ancestors failed to achieve." As Nafisa spoke the final words, the trees stirred, their branches rustling as if they had been waiting for that exact moment of acknowledgement and repentance. With a gentle creaking, the trees parted their immense branches, creating a clear, welcoming path for Nafisa. "Thank you for your forgiveness and your guidance," Nafisa whispered, standing up. As she entered the path, she gazed in wonder, approaching the basket. The basket's ethereal beauty was breathtaking. When Nafisa touched the woven artifact, she was instantly enveloped in another vision. She saw her ancestors, her long lineage of guardians, gathered around her, their faces filled with love and pride. Then, she saw a prosperous, flourishing Timbuktu. When the vision faded, Nafisa found herself back in the clearing. She knew she was smiling, and an immense, quiet peace settled into her heart. The Kele basket was clutched firmly in her hands, and she felt a surge of ancient energy and absolute resolve. She could now return to the city. The canyon around her was no longer a tangle of dark shadows. It was serene. The unnerving silence was gone, replaced by the gentle songs of birds. The few animals she saw seemed peaceful and did not try to harm her. As she emerged from the canyon, she saw a figure approaching her. It was the king's son, Prince Sultan, who had been relentlessly searching for the basket. Nafisa's grip on the basket tightened. "I have scoured this entire land for this artifact. I tracked every dune and corner, and yet it is you, a lone woman, who holds the basket," the prince declared, his voice laced with burning frustration and profound disbelief. "I have lost my best men on this quest, men who trusted me to lead them to victory. My mother's desperate words echo in my mind, urging me to find it at any cost, and now, I find it in your hands. Fate is cruel, it seems." The prince's eyes narrowed, his gaze intensifying as he took a challenging step toward Nafisa. Nafisa's heart pounded like a distant drum in her chest, and her fingers clenched around the basket's handle as if it were her own lifeline. Fear surged through her veins, but she stood firm, determined not to surrender the Kele basket, no matter the threat. Thanks for watching. If you made it to the very end of this journey, congratulations, I genuinely appreciate you. If you enjoyed this story and want to know how Nafisa finally breaks the curse and what wish she makes, smash the part 2 button in the comments section below. And be sure to subscribe to my channel so you're the first to be notified when I drop the next video.